Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Susie. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is a thrift flip video. However, it's a little bit different than my normal ones. I'm not going to do a bunch of thrift flips. I have one item because every now and then you run into the one item that needs a whole video all by itself. Everything that could go wrong almost went wrong with this project, and I've got several different techniques, and it was just too much to put in with a bunch of others, so I thought it really deserved its own. Also, I wanted to say thank you guys for hanging in there with me while I figure out the best release date for my videos. As y'all know, or if you don't know, I have a full-time job also, so I work Monday through Friday. Most of the extra work that I do for my channel and for my booth is at night, and I've just been playing around with the days. I also don't have great internet at home, so I have to upload the videos while I'm at the office. So right now, it's working out for me pretty good to film all weekend and then take Monday and Tuesday to edit and then post on Wednesdays. But I will let you guys know when I finalize what date I'm actually going to be posting on. So just hang in here with me, and I appreciate you guys so much. So let's go ahead and get started. There's lots of work to do. Some of you may remember this old trunk that Mom got at a yard sale a couple months ago maybe. It was rusty, the handles were falling apart, but the absolute worst thing about it was the smell. Mothballs majorly. So for the past month or so, I have been trying to get the smell out of it. Those little things you saw in there were the things that you put in the scent boosters that you put in the wash machine, and that was a last resort. I had done the Arm & Hammer sitting in there, and I've just about got the smell out of it. I've sit out in the sun for hours and hours and almost got the smell out of it. So now I'm just taking my orbital sander and I'm getting all the loose paper out of the inside, just cleaning it up, making it as smooth as I can, because I'm going to be painting the inside as well. Once I got the inside cleaned up, it's time to move to the outside. I sprayed the whole thing with Crud Cutter, and I'm just going to wipe it down. This thing was so dirty. I think it had been sitting in a barn or a basement without a floor, just in a crawl space, something like that. It was so dirty. It took 2 or 3 times of me wiping it down, rinsing out the rags, spraying it again. That was after just a couple of wipes. That's how dirty it was. So I went ahead and got the whole thing cleaned up. And I sprayed a couple of coats of shellac on the outside just to minimize any bleed through. Then I painted the whole thing white on the outside and black on the inside. Once I got the inside all cleaned up, I decided to go ahead and Mod Podge some old newspaper, like tissue paper that I had in the inside. And here I'm just taking the sanding block and sanding the edges off, and then cleaning up everything with black paint and going over the top of the paper with the Mod Podge once it had dried. And the inside of it is all clean and neat and can store blankets or sheets or anything like that you need to store. Finally, when the inside and the outside is all dry and painted, I'm going to do a paint inlay on the outside. And this is the Gregorys Retail Seed Catalog inlay. And this is only my second time to use an inlay. So here I am just kind of laying it out and deciding how I want to use it. Obviously, it is not all going to fit. So I'm cutting some of the words down. And I decided to do Retail Catalog on the top, and then I will do some smaller words on the bottom. These inlays have nice grids on the back of them, so it's easy to cut them and line them up. And you do have to cut the edges off. See how I'm doing here? And that just helps you line them up when you're doing it. Each of the pages have these special edges that you do need to cut off. So I've got the Retail Catalog all cut out here, and now I'm going to start applying it. So what you want to do is a nice layer of paint. You want to work in sections. So you put the layer of paint on, nice and even in the section that you're working on, and then you lay the paint inlay in it. Now, like I said, this is only my second time, so I am still learning, and I have learned a lot of things as I've done this. Number one, you have a minute to move it around. Number two, you want to push the inlay into the paint very good while you can. And I did not use a brayer here. I used a sponge, which worked pretty well in the other ones that I've tried, but I think I probably should have used a brayer here. And then you wet the inlay and smooth it all out, and you just repeat that process with each section. Now, I think I could have done the whole retail word and then wet it all, but this is just how I did it this time. So I'm just going to continue putting the even layer of paint on, and then laying the inlay over the paint and pushing it into the paint. Then wetting the inlay and continuing on. So far, things are looking pretty good. I'm just going to get all these words on. I end up putting the word annual by retail, and then I did warranty seeds on the bottom of the trunk. And then I'm just going to let them dry. I'm going to go up and cook supper and let it completely dry. Once your inlay has completely dried, you want to re-wet it. Now, here's a mistake I made, I think. I wet the whole thing and I let it sit here. I think you should wet it in sections, just like you put it on, and I think it would come off better. Because this first word, after I wet it, it come out pretty good because it was still really damp. But I think by the time I got to the bottom, it was starting to dry, so it did not remove as clean. I still really love the way this turned out. It's very distressed and old looking, like it's been painted on a wall for 100 years. And that's essentially the kind of look that I was going for. I would have liked it to have been just a little bit cleaner, but I still really love how this turned out. Things are still going really good up to this point. So I thrifted a couple of belts at the thrift store for 99 cents, and I decided that these would be the best things to use for handles and the easiest thing. So I just put a new hole in these and put a belt on each side and cut off the excess, and I really like the way that that turned out. Okay, so here's where you think everything's good, right? Only thing I have left to do is seal it, get the bottom painted, and seal the bottom. Well, I put a coat of polycrylic on it, and y'all, even though before I had painted it white, I had sealed it with shellac, 2 coats of shellac, and I painted it white. There was absolutely no bleed through. I did the whole paint inlay process, and then when I put the polycrylic on top, the rust bled through. I mean, it was awful. I don't even have a video of it. I was so disgusted when that happened that I just left it and I let it sit there for several days. So finally, I just went ahead and sanded it all off and painted it again, sealed it again, painted white over it, hoping it's not gonna bleed through this time. Now, the inlays can be used more than once, but I wasn't quite confident enough that the bleed through had nothing to do with the inlay at this point. So instead, I decided to go with a transfer, and I found the Desperado transfer pack, so that's what we're gonna go with. I've said it before and I'll say it again, transfers are so easy. This one was a little bit more difficult with all the wording and everything. I had to lift and lay back down a bunch, but it still transferred beautifully. All in all, this experience with this trunk has made me very patient and just made me realize that you just don't need to give up on something. It may not turn out like you want it, but it will still turn out beautiful if you put in the work and get it done. What do y'all think of the transformation of this trunk? I am loving this Desperado transfer, and I love the Gregorys Catalogue paint inlay. So whatever happens with this trunk, I'm happy with how it turns out. And I thank y'all so much for watching, and I hope that each and every one of y'all have the best day.